Welcome to the channel of ExoplanetStudios. Today I want to talk about the game I am creating with the help of some friends. The game doesn't really have a name yet, so currently we just call it The Island. It will essentially be a low poly style survival game where you can build, craft, harvest and fight. Also, I want the game progression to focus more on supernatural things, because I feel like since Ark, most survival games have been too focused on technology, even if it didn't really fit the game. The scenes you're seeing now are from the current version of the game, but please keep in mind that this is very early in development, so all assets are essentially placeholders. But back to the beginning. It started out like every other Unity game, as an empty project. But you need to start somewhere, so we added a capsule, made it walk around and got to work. When you want to make a game, you really should start with the core gameplay, or at least with some proof of concepts, just to make sure that your idea for the game actually makes any sense. That way you can avoid working on a project for months, just to realize that it's not really fun to play. In contrast, if you start with a really complex system that is important for the game, but not for the gameplay, let's say a map generation, you could often get demotivated by how far away your goal seems to be and how you seem to make really little progress. Also, you could end up with only the map generation if you realize that your idea for the gameplay itself wasn't that good after all. Whether this last point will be a problem for my game remains to be seen. After 2 months of trying to implement a biome-based map generation and failing because of an error that caused the terrain to look like this, I got demotivated and didn't work on the project for another 3 months. Following that promising head start, I picked up the project again and found that the bug was basically fixed with 1 line of code. In total, it took me almost 6 months to bring the map generation into its current state. It's definitely not finished, but the core terrain generator works, and the things that still need to be added are all additional features like a cave generation and rivers. Overall, I'm really happy how the map generation turned out. Next, I continued with more generic stuff like modeling and animating a basic character with the help of a friend and implementing proper player movement. I also added a system to save and load the game. Then I got a little sidetracked because a YouTuber CodeMonkey released a video where he showed off a package that adds an in-game console and makes it really easy to add new commands via method attributes. I then figured it would be a good time to implement that into my game, but the package isn't free and I'm broke, so I had to make it myself. I managed to recreate the basic functions of the package and it works great. Also, for whatever reason, I'm really proud of myself because I managed to save the $35 for the package by working for at least 1 or 2 weeks. Afterwards, I continued with my record of implementing random systems that I can't really use and started working on an inventory system. As reference, I used a tutorial series for a scriptable object inventory from the YouTuber Coding with Unity, except that I didn't end up using scriptable objects, which defeats the whole point of the tutorial. Anyways, I then continued by adding a co-op multiplayer, because it's gonna be a core feature and I thought that it would be a good idea to have it implemented sooner than later. So that's pretty much where I am right now. Looking back, it isn't that much, but I think it's a solid base to build upon. But the next step should be the fighting system. I already said that I want the world to be more magical and less technologic, so don't expect any guns. There will probably be a lot of bow gameplay, because I personally like bows and love the Horizon Zero Dawn gameplay. However, close range fighting can be really satisfying when implemented correctly. The thing is that I hate basically all implementations of first person close range combat that I know, but I still want the immersion of first person exploration. Now my idea is to change the camera to third person when the fighting starts and to have it in first person the rest of the time. For this to work, I obviously need to eliminate the need to fight while harvesting or building, so I will probably make it possible to basically completely clear certain areas of enemies. That way I will hopefully be able to separate exploring and fighting from harvesting and building. I guess we'll see if that's sufficient to prevent constant camera switching. That would be really annoying. I'm still unsure if that's really a good idea though, please feel free to share your thoughts about that in the comments. But as interesting as this might be, fighting isn't the only scope of the game, so let's talk about another process that is often way too boring in these kinds of games. Harvesting. Harvesting gameplay is important. In most survival games you will have to use a considerable amount of time to get resources. I played way too many survival games in the past where harvesting gameplay consists of walking up on a tree and holding down the left mouse button. This isn't even bad gameplay, it's no gameplay at all. In my opinion, there are two main ways to improve this: satisfaction and exploration. The first point is really self-explanatory. If you have to chop down 100 trees to build your big mansion, at least make it satisfying. Valheim is a really good example for this. Well-combined animations and camera shakes, paired with a physicalized tree trunk that is falling down when you chop down the tree, make up for a really good harvesting experience. Same goes for the rocks and the ores. They break into pieces so that you can actually see the progress of mining. At least a physicalized trunk system will definitely make it into the island, but for the ores I'm still unsure. The exploration part is also really simple. Instead of needing to get a ton of easy to access materials, like wood, you will need harder to access materials, but not as many. This motivates you to explore other areas and biomes to get these materials, and encourages you to do big farming tours instead of just getting exactly what you need and then come back to whatever you are doing. Valheim isn't bad at this, but it isn't particularly good either. The Valheim devs mostly used a system of different dungeon types and enemies to hide most of the middle to high tier materials like iron, and to keep the player exploring. A solution that isn't bad, but putting resources in dungeons isn't a very good idea in my opinion. Dungeons should be something special where you need to prepare to enter them and where you get special items as a reward, not resources. One of the things that annoyed me the most while playing Valheim was the sheer number of really similar swamp dungeons I had to play through just to get enough iron for 2 sets of armor, weapons and tools. Subnautica is a way better example for this. The combination of basically forcing you to sort your items while spreading the many different resources across the entire map makes up for a perfect resource gathering experience. To try to replicate this, the inventory space in the island won't be that big, the stack size is small and the number of needed resources to craft or build something really low. At the same time, I will use a terrain generator to create many different looking biomes with different resources. Also, I really want to have small chests with an integrated sign like in Subnautica, because making it easy to sort your stuff is very important. Which brings me to the last point on the list: crafting and building. In most modern survival games, crafting works the same. You get a menu when interacting with the workbench or in your inventory, and just pick whatever you want to craft. This approach is not only boring, but a missed gameplay opportunity. Even the creators of Minecraft recognized this 10 years ago and therefore introduced the 3x3 crafting field that we all know and love. But in the island I want to reduce the amount of 2D UI as much as possible. And I think that it would be more fun to actually interact with the objects you are crafting. A workbench shouldn't only be a place where you press E and any kind of object appears out of nowhere. For example, a forge would need the player to hit the object you want to forge with a hammer. To be fair, I'm not the first one with this idea. I actually recently stumbled upon another GameDev channel about the game named Derelict that uses a crafting system like this, and to see it in action convinced me even more that they could be more into crafting than clicking a menu button. The building system will be much inspired by Valheim, because I feel like the one thing this game does really well is to give the players exactly the right amount of restrictions and features to motivate them not to build blocks. I really want to make sure that my game does not end up with everyone building Rust-style bases. My next videos will be more traditional style devlogs, where I'm gonna talk about the progress we made. Also, for me this is the first time editing and recording a video, so if you have any tips on how I could improve the quality of these videos, feel free to share them in the comments. That said, thanks for watching, like if you liked, dislike if you didn't, subscribe, join my Discord, link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.